So your kid wants to play Cyberpunk 2077, or maybe they just want to watch some gameplay and streams of the game. Is that a good idea? Are you comfortable with it? In today's video, we're going to take just a few minutes and look at some background information about the game world, the style of gameplay, and some of the adult themes featured in the game so you can make an informed decision. We'll be back to the main menu of the game in just a moment, but first, let's take a look at the ESRB site and get some background. The ESRB summarizes the game as a first-person RPG/shooter in which the players assume the role of a mercenary named V, trying to make their way through the open world of Night City. Players can explore futuristic locations, interact with citizens, perform missions, and engage in combat to complete various objectives within a storyline. The overall rating is of mature, 17 and over. And trust me when I say that it earns every bit of that rating. Now, I'll drop a link in the description below to the ESRB website so that you can read this entire paragraph in more detail. But let's briefly talk about each of the items listed here on the side next to the mature rating. Starting with blood and gore along with intense violence. These obviously go hand in hand. Let me begin by saying that the game world in which you will play Cyberpunk 2077 is a very dirty and grungy view of the future that hinges entirely around the focus on violence and sex. So it should be no surprise that you're going to see lots of blood and gore along with intense violence. Nearly every mission, whether it's a main story mission or a side mission that you encounter throughout the game world, is going to involve some sort of violence, whether it is violence toward a person, a violence toward a computer network, whether it is someone has been kidnapped that you need to free. Any manner of things are going to come up, but nearly everything revolves around violence. And obviously where there's violence, there's going to be blood and gore. In fact, one of the main story missions very early in the game will depict some very graphic content that younger users will definitely not be prepared for. You're going to see bodies that have been mutilated or deformed in some way that is certainly not going to be a welcoming image, and it just sets the stage for the way the game world plays out. So lots of blood and gore for sure, violence everywhere in the game world. Nudity, that is something that we're going to talk a little bit more about. There are one or two things that you can do in-game to help out with some of the nudity, but this is a highly sexualized game world, so there's no getting away from those sexual themes, regardless of whether or not you actually see the nudity itself. So again, we'll come back to that in just a little bit when we get back to the game itself. Strong language. The dialogue contains lots and lots of curse words and other adult language and sexual innuendo. It is throughout the game, pretty much in every character or NPC that you talk to. So there is no escaping that within the game. Strong sexual content along with some of the nudity that you're going to see, as well as the sexual innuendo that you're going to hear from other characters and NPCs. There's also the ads. There's also the dress that you're going to see from NPCs and characters within the game world. As you're moving throughout the game world, you're going to be struck by just how many ads you're going to see that are either overtly sexual or depict acts of a sexual nature that are slightly underpinned with a different type of content. They're everywhere, and there's no way to get away from them overall. Also, the clothing that you're going to see, the outfits that the NPCs and other characters wear are extremely suggestive in certain types of situations, and you're going to find yourself frequenting places like bars where this is only exacerbated with the type of people that are inside these locations. And then finally, drugs and alcohol. Once again, this type of activity is everywhere, and yes, the player character can choose to participate in any and all of these. As you move throughout just the story missions themselves, you're going to encounter every one of these. So it's not something that you can just simply stay on the main path and avoid. Your main character is going to have plenty of opportunities to consume alcohol, as well as participate in other drugs, as well as the opportunity to have sex or participate in sexual acts or suggested sexual acts throughout the game. Let me be perfectly clear, this game is not designed with kids in mind. So if you do decide that you're okay with your kids either viewing or playing the game, let's go back to the main menu and I'll show you a couple of things that you can do, maybe to help out at least a little bit. There are two ways to reduce the amount of nudity within the game overall. The first being an overall setting contained within the settings and under the gameplay tab. If you scroll down toward the bottom a little bit, you're going to see nudity censor. Now, by default, this is off in the game, so you're going to have to change this to on if you want to censor the nudity in the game. This is going to help out with some of the ads you see throughout the game, as well as some of the overall nudity contained. But then the second way that you can reduce this is within the character's custom creation. The good news is, if you've chosen to activate the nudity censor that we just spoke about, then you shouldn't have any issues here in the character creation upon starting a new game. However, let's say that you chose not to activate the nudity censor, then here in the character creation, you're going to have a few potential issues. If you choose a male character, then there's going to be an option for genitalia. And this game does not require that a male character have male genitalia. It can be male or female, so keep that in mind. With choosing the female character, in addition to the genitalia options, you're also going to have breast size. So remember that if you choose to allow the nudity censor to remain off. So those are just a couple of things that you can do within the game itself. But overall, this should be enough information that will allow you to make an informed decision about whether or not you want your kid to either play or watch gameplay footage of Cyberpunk 2077.